That closure is all part of the fallout from a high-profile assassination. A senior commander shot dead at the entrance of his home in Gaza City on Friday. Hamas officials quickly pointed a finger at Israel and issued threats of retaliation. Added to that today, Hamas leader Khalid Mashal saying Israel changed the equation. Israel, for its part, said nothing at all. But at the same time, in the West Bank today, Israeli security forces cracking down on Hamas in the West Bank, arresting a senior official there. Let's jump to Washington. Yoram Schweitzer is head of the program on terrorism and low-intensity conflict at the INSS. He's joining us from there. Yoram, great to have you.
Thank you for having me.
So far, we don't see a big reaction from Hamas, relatively speaking, to the assassination. Why is that?
First of all, I think it's too early to judge. Second, I think that Hamas has to establish that it is Israel behind this attack. And it depends. I think they are calculating the way that they should, according to their perception, react.
So we don't know if Israel was behind it. No comment from Israel. Likely not to be. Are there other likely options from what you know of what's going on inside Gaza, which has a new leader as of the last few months?
I think Hamas, first of all, Hamas is responsible for all kind of launching of rockets that were coming from Gaza, including in recent weeks. So they should do their job and prevent it. And then Israel would not retaliate in Gaza against Hamas or against the Salafists. And second, probably since we heard just recently the summary of 2016 from the head of the Israeli Shabak, and we know that Hamas was definitely involved in some of the dozens of planned attacks that were carried out against Israel in last year. So I suppose Hamas is not stopping totally its operations anyhow.
So, Yoram, we hear all the time the same story here between Israel and Hamas, that another round of conflict is coming. We hear warnings from officials on both sides of that. That's happening again now. Is now any different than before?
No, I think it's part of the tension. Maybe now the tension was raised because of the killing of Mazen Fouqa. But the game is continuing all the time. Hamas is involved in attempts to operate within Israel from the West Bank, as well as responsibility of Hamas for the launching from Gaza as the hegemonic power. So I think up till now, the tension that is being raised from time to time hasn't changed the equation. And I hope that Hamas will refrain from trying any belligerent acts against Israel, because I don't think it's the benefit for both sides.
If we're looking at the regional picture, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu recently has been pointing a lot to Arab countries, to a closening of ties between Israel and those countries. Do you think that really is changing the game, or is he exaggerating?
I think, first of all, we have to see tangible maneuvers on the ground. I think maybe there are some connections, probably there are connections underground between Israel and some Arab countries. I hope that Israel will continue with these efforts and definitely will take the benefit of these connections to also to prevent any eruption of belligerent acts, whether it's with Hamas from Gaza or in the West Bank or with the Palestinian Authority. I think we should harness these efforts to resume political connection between the Israelis and the Palestinians.
Yoram Schweitzer at our studios in Washington, thanks very much for this.